Hello, ladies and gents. Hagbard Celine here on another beautiful day, and I have before me a video that was entitled, Why Four Wives? Polygamy in Islam and Other Religions. In it, the maker attempts to justify the way that Islam has four wives by saying it's technically the only religion that says it's only four wives, because no other religion explicitly states a limitation on the ownership of women. And of course, Islam doesn't either, and we'll get into that as well, but for now, let's just take it at face value and assume that indeed Islam is the only religion in the entire world that limits the number of wives a man can have. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to hurt. I advise that you buckle up quite tightly because we're going to be all over the place, and to clean our brains at the end, I've decided to tag on a short clip from a, I guess, news program. It's truly hard to say, not being culturally fluent, as it were. But either way, it's quite amusing, and it should lift our spirits towards the end. That said, let's just get on with it, shall we? Roll the tape, fuck up.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Dear brothers and sisters, today the question that we have is, why does Islam allow marrying four women while no other religion or no other constitution allows this to happen in this day and age?
I should like to note at this passing that these are the people that are conflating religion and the Constitution or constitutions around the world. When we are discussing religious doctrines, that is entirely what we are discussing. However, even the preachers of Islam tend to be willing to admit that Islam is a political structure.
To begin with, I just wanted to bring to your notice the ayah of the Quran, the verse of the Quran, which actually speaks about the permission for four marriages, is in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 3. It says that marry women of your choice, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear you cannot deal justly with them, then marry only one that is better for you.
Remember this, because at the end of this particular video, he's going to say that thus women have power, when in reality he has just explained that it's up to the man to dictate if he can support more than one wife. It's not up to the woman, and he's going to play these little tricky games the entire goddamn time.
This statement, or this portion of the ayah of the Quran, which says that if you feel that you cannot do justice between them, then marry only one that is better for you. This is exclusively only in Islam. No other scripture in the world has the statement or has the command which says, marry only one.
This is irrelevant, as the practicing Christians and Christianity do indeed state that you marry only one. And the laws in the constitutions of the quote-unquote Christian nations that you're referring to here also dictate only one. I'm pushing past this because he's giving examples from the Bible and other religious texts that are irrelevant to the points I'm making here, wherein he conflates religion and politics.
Yes, I agree. Islam does give the permission to marry up to a maximum of 4 at one single time.
Of course that's only at once, and you can feel free to divorce and rotate wives as need be. Oh, and of course let's not forget the allowance for sexual slavery. You know, that whole uncomfortable situation.
which is again the smallest number compared to any other religious permission. Let's look at the constitutions across the world. Many of the countries today, I agree, in the 21st century, have a legal system which says that a man can marry only one woman and a woman can marry only one man. And I agree with this and I understand this.
Then understanding your purpose for making these videos is quite difficult because you've just contradicted your own point. But go on, I'm sure you have some very valid points yet to make.
But with the same concept, let us take Australia, Britain, America, Canada, or any of the European countries.
Here is where the pattern started. I've heard this argument several places. This just happens to be the man with the highest resolution video who made it. I'm going to let him speak his piece, and then we're going to compare and contrast some other gentlemen.
If you can have one wife, legally, can you have more girlfriends?
I'll wrap this argument up quite briefly and succinctly. In many states in the United States, adultery, which is having sex outside of wedlock, is indeed punishable as a misdemeanor, and in some, it's punishable as a felony. Would you like to go on, or no? That being said, let's pull that compare and contrast I promised you, eh?
What Islam is saying here is what's a limit. But you have to understand, before Islam came, they had no limits. These Arab people, these Bedouin people, had no limits.
That feels way sis funny, Santa Claus.
Just like in most of the world today, really there's no real limit on how many girlfriends you can have. Even here in Malaysia, which is a very religious place, it really is beautiful. But tell me what statute you have on the books that tells you how many girlfriends you can have. How many boyfriends can you have? Is there a law that if a girl and a boy are walking down the street holding hands right now, that they're going to go to jail?
Amazing how he says that last bit like, there should be. Now this is the growing pattern that I've seen on several YouTube pages where they say, oh, well, it's like in the West they have girlfriends and mistresses instead of many wives. Well, it's not inherently true. This, of course, ignores the Islamic tradition of what the right hand possesses, as succinctly described here by a Dr. Zakir, I'm sure we're all familiar with.
Brother asked the question that at the time of the Prophet, there were women who were slave women, and you were allowed to have sex with them even without marrying. So why was it allowed? What is the privilege? And is the vice versa permitted or not? There are many verses in the Quran which says that you can have sex with whom those are your wife and what your right hand possesses. Right hand possesses means they are the slaves.
I mean, seriously, who needs girlfriends when you have sex slaves that the right hand possesses?
Can you have 20 girlfriends in America?
Can I have 20 sex slaves in Kuwait? I mean, are we asking questions, or?
Is it illegal to have 20 girlfriends in America?
Is it illegal to have 20 non-married sex slaves in Islam?
You'd be surprised. It's not.
You would be surprised. Sex slavery is permitted under your religious doctrine. Or maybe not. Maybe you have a topless harem in your basement. Who knows?
In Britain, if you got 25 girlfriends, it's not illegal. In Australia, if you got 30 girlfriends, it's not illegal, though you may already be married. Furthermore, many of these countries have legalized prostitution. And you'll be surprised that there is no prostitution legalization which stops a married man from going there. It allows you.
Okay, seriously, I know I've probably made my point with this guy by now, but it's really hard to play the compare and contrast morality game when you allow for sex slavery, sir.
What it means is, legally, all the constitutions in the world recognize that a man may have more than one partner.
Apparently, by having laws that say that prostitution is legal and that girlfriends are not inherently something that one can be arrested for having, one is acknowledging multiple partners. I'm not sure what world this gentleman lives in, but traditionally we do not ascribe to prostitutes the role of partner, nor even girlfriends, sir. There are indeed legal constructs in place with the concept of marriage that are not inherent in the behavior between prostitutes or girlfriends. Although it is interesting that you, a Muslim, would think that.
That's what we are trying to say. In Islam, you cannot have relationship out of marriage. You cannot have girlfriends.
As Dr. Zakir pointed out, what you're saying now is flat out untruthful.
In Islam, you cannot have prostitution legalized.
Of course, that would be far too expensive. Just possess her with your right hand.
In Islam, a man is not permissible or not permitted to go to a prostitute or to have a girlfriend without the knowledge of the legal system. So how could it be that someone blames Islam while the legality of the countries allows prostitution, the legalities of the countries do not stop having more than one girlfriend, the legalities of the system or the constitution does not stop a man from having more than one sexual partner?
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. As far as this gentleman is concerned, and I'm assuming all of Islam is concerned, because that's the role he has placed upon himself, prostitutes, girlfriends, and sexual partners are exactly equal to wives. In
the midst of this, I feel Islam happens to be the poorest system for men, which allows a maximum of only 4.
You can't possibly be fucking serious with that. Here he repeats himself several times, and I'm not going to waste your or my time with it.
In Islam, you are allowed to marry up to 4, but you cannot marry unless and until the woman agrees for the marriage.
This is where he gets shifty again and tries to explain how, oh, don't worry, it's not men taking women, it's women choosing the man. Sure, that's exactly how that works out. It's not that Islam exists in predominantly poor socio-economic regions that have gone through a lot of war, and thus there is a dearth of women, you see, in poor areas who would gladly marry 4, 5 deep on a rich man who had the promise of making sure that she had at least a somewhat safe and comfortable life. This is economic extortion. It's not an equal marriage.
So for example, I've got one wife. I cannot have a second wife unless the woman agrees to be my second wife.
To clarify, he means the second wife, not his first wife, not the woman he's currently married to.
So it is once again a woman's choice rather than a man's. You ask any man on earth, he wouldn't say, I wouldn't want to have more than one partner. I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm just saying if you ask men what is their wish might always be for more than one. Whether it be an American, an Australian, a British, a European, an Arab, an African, an Asian, or Muslim, Christian, Jew, Buddhist, anybody you ask, the man's wish might be to have more than one. But the point I'm trying to make here is, it is a woman's choice in Islam.
Let me just pop this bubble for you, buddy. It's pretty much a woman's choice always. The times when it's not a woman's choice, we tend to call rape or extortion. Usually rape by extortion.
I cannot have a second wife unless the woman agrees to be my second wife. I cannot have a third wife unless the woman agrees to be my third wife.
See, I was not bullshitting. He quite explicitly states that it is the new wife's choice to become a wife, and it has no input from the already existent wives. 'Cause women have freedom in Islam.
I cannot have a fourth wife unless a woman agrees to be my fourth wife. So in Islam, though a man might want to have 20 women and marry them, he cannot.
This, sir, is a function of availability, typically. This fact that perhaps a man could want 20 women and not have access to them more depends on the fact that women won't sleep with him than religious control or social control. Even you must recognize that somewhere.
unless the woman agrees. So marrying more than one is a woman's choice and liberty in Islam than being a man's choice.
Unless, of course, that woman already happens to be married, and then all choice is gone. That's it for this guy. I'm about done with his video. But ladies and gentlemen, as promised, I'm going to finish off with an interesting video that I found that is a piece of, well, I guess you'd call it propaganda or trash literature, the equivalent of Arab Jerry Springer. It's really hard for me to understand the cultural place this show holds, whether it's considered a valuable show or a trash rag, but really it's irrelevant because I'm going to clip a couple of pieces that show what sexual repression does to a culture. It also shows that they still believe in ridiculous levels of hero worship. Fuck up, if you could roll the tape. A man attends a sex 15 times per night with 4 wives.
الرجل الأخضر أو شمشون العصر تزوج 28 مرة وأنجب 35 ابنا وابنة.
Just as a counterpoint to our previous video, 28 just feels like so many more than 4, doesn't it?
أكبرهم سماح 24 سنة وأصغرهم سيد 3 سنوات. أثبتت التحاليل الطبية أن قوته تعادل 260 حصن.
Luckily, this looks nothing like an 18th or 19th century rag that would be for circuses, right? I'm sure P.T. Barnum has absolutely nothing to say about any of this, right? I mean, really, this is clearly a level of propaganda that is just amazing. He rambles on this show on several topics, up to and including the fact that he's super humble about how strong he is, by bragging about how strong he is. He also talks about how he can't be in the military, he can't be in jails, he talks about all kinds of ridiculous stories that probably didn't happen. He notes that his 4 wives are spread across Egypt, but somehow he sees them every night. Irrelevant, the story doesn't have to line up or make sense. This man is a comic book character. What I wanted to show you was this scene. This is what sexual repression does. This is included in your hero stories when sex isn't normal in your culture.
يعني بالنسبه لموضوع الجواز يعني عشان نكون صراحه كده يعني احنا كلنا فاهمين يعني انت عندك طاقه جنسيه او رغبه جنسيه قويه جدا فلازم
اجتماع جنسي يوماتي 15 مره بتعريف طبي كله
15 مره اجتماع جنسي مع زوجاتك.
That's right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's in the medical report. He's medically required to have sex with his wives 15 times a night. Whatever the fuck that means. And of course, that sexual virility is a gift from God, and his wives, they can just barely keep up. That's why it's necessity that he has 4 wives, right? I mean, really, it all makes sense. It all lines up now. All is right with the world if it's understood that way, right? And I do like how they have the questions. No problems, no beatings, right? You accept this situation. It's insane. The way that they speak is utter madness. It truly is. But that's all, ladies and gents. I think we've seen enough of Islam for this week. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Remember what we learned here today, that the West is evil because it permits such things as prostitution and doesn't have laws in every Western country about adultery. But Islam is good because 4 wives and sex slaves. Who can argue with that? Thanks for watching. Hope you had fun. There'll be more next week. Good luck. Be safe. And goodbye.